have the owner, operator, and head producer of Carpet Booth Studios, Zach Zurn. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Did I get all those titles right?
Yeah, you missed a few, like world-leading entrepreneur.
Good, yep.
You know, but we got most.
Incredibly wise, handsome, sexy. Okay, first question I have to ask. Your name is Zach Zurn.
Yep.
Is that your real name? It's too good of a name to be real, right? That's a stage name.
That is a common question, but it is my real name. I will say, though, that I was born with a hyphenated name. Horvath/Zurn was my given last name. But Horvath is very Hungarian, it's very mouthy. Everybody had a really hard time for all my years growing up saying that. And so whether it was rude for them to do this or not, I was just kind of always known as Zach Zurn because the Z was easier to say. So when I got married, you get a free name change.
Right.
And my wife really wanted like the simple last name, and a lot of people don't even know, even before I had Horvath Zurn, that I was a Horvath. I did have the Horvath.
Right.
So she kind of wanted something simple, and it was cool timing because my parent that has the Horvath as the last name actually approached us right around our engagement time and said, I know how confusing it is. If you'd like to change it, I would not be offended at all.
Oh, that's great.
Which was cool because like, we had talked about it, and we were kind of dreading a conversation like that because I'm proud of both of my names. So all I did was I moved it to a second middle name. So phonetically, it still reads Zachary Richard Horvath Zurn, but I just have R.H. in the middle now, which if I ever want to write a book, Zachary R.H. Zurn, it makes me feel a little bit more prestigious.
Your name is so usable.
I hope
You're
so.
all over.
I hope so.
You can be world-leading entrepreneur, or you can be world-leading best-selling author. That's how you're good to go. Awesome. Well, we had to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So, Zach, as we said, you're working Carpet Booth Studios.
Yeah.
That's your company. It's been rising a lot. You have a new building that we are currently in that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Those who are watching the video will get to see a bunch of really cool stuff as we kind of go around. But tell us a little bit about coming to Rochester. I know you're from Rochester, correct?
Yeah, more or less.
Give us a little bit of that background. Be quick. You can be quick with that story if you want, and then how you got to open this sort of business, this beautiful arts facility in Rochester. Maybe something people wouldn't necessarily think would be here as opposed to the Twin Cities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was born in the South and then moved to Minnesota when I was like in late middle school, early high school age, and played in bands around the area and such. Got really fascinated with songwriting and just the art of recording when I was pretty young. I'd say like 10 or 11 through a little professor at my school where I was living in Texas. And so all the steps I took were kind of leading towards this is really what I'd love to do. I really want to help people write the best songs they can and get the best audio quality as possible. So yeah, extracurricular activities in like high school, were music focused. Got my degree, bachelor's degree in like music with an emphasis in voice and composition and theory, and then did some continued education online for production, and then just took as many learning opportunities I could to partner with other engineers and producers and kind of work with them in their studios and really learn from, the Minneapolis area's best, in my opinion. And then opened a temporary space in Rochester downtown about a year and a half ago to work with a couple local artists, and word of mouth spread that we had a small studio. I didn't have a name for it. It was just Zach Zurn's random little spot downtown, and which is it doesn't roll off the tongue.
It's an interesting secondary name.
And word spread, and so honestly, probably from being there I was 2 weeks into being in this space, and word of mouth was spreading, and then my phone started ringing off the hook for people needing recording services. So I started to bring them in, and after a year of being in this, like I think a polite way to say it is very humble space downtown. It was a good place to get started, but there wasn't a lot of longevity in the size or the vibe of the spot. We really saw that like we have an opportunity to secure a new space that would be much more fitting for larger scale, higher quality projects that we really wanted to work on. So we toured a bunch of places, and we found this old church building just a little south of Rochester, and the church is building a new church, and so that's why this church is for sale. And we teamed up with a couple investors and went ahead and took the leap. with our fingers crossed and moved to this space, and we're really excited about it.
It's a beautiful space.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about the opportunity to have a Studio A upstairs.
That's great. It's not even a possibility anymore.
Yeah.
It's an actuality.
I have to start changing my language. Yeah. Studio A upstairs, which will be sort of full service, full console, very analog gear focused. Bit higher price point, but really, really nice gear. And then the beauty about the downtown space that we had was it was small and accessible, and it was in a space that I kind of hit a price ceiling right away that felt like I could offer for clients. It was a very affordable rate. And I kind of hit that almost right away and kept it the whole time I was there because I didn't really feel like it was fair to charge more than that. The beauty about having that low price point was I attracted a lot of beginner and local musicians that really didn't have an opportunity before we existed downtown to have an affordable and accessible place to record their music. I loved playing that role in like the local greater Rochester area music scene for giving those artists a place to get high quality sounds. And so we'll have a Studio B in the space, which will be still quite the upgrade from what we were at downtown, even the Studio B space, with a larger live room and a large control room. And that will be a space for a more affordable rate and a simpler setup where those kind of artists can still get great quality sounds. We're really excited.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a musical artist at all, but it seems like there's people just trying to make it. They're recording on GarageBand on their Macs, pillows on the walls, right? And then like hopefully you get noticed, and then you can go to a big studio. But you're sort of trying to provide that whole scene here in this one location, right?
I'd love it.
If you need something new, Studio B, you get noticed, you have some more money, you can spend some more on the recording.
Let's get you upstairs.
Literally go upstairs.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's incredible. So you're looking for, I don't know, Billy Joe in high school who's just starting out, just really liking the sound, wanting to get some recording, but you're also up for
Billy Joel
professional,
himself.
Billy Joel himself. Coming down, professional artists from Twin Cities are coming down here now, correct? And that's how attractive this is. I'm just mentioning that so people out there, recognize like this is a very high quality professional space that you're working with.
Well, I appreciate it. We're really focusing on Rochester. But where we're positioned in the southeast corner of the city limits, we're very accessible to Winona, La Crosse, Mason City, Iowa. And so we're really hoping to become like the premier spot in this tri-state corner, basically. There's plenty of artists that do come down from the cities to work with us, even at our old space and our space now. But at the same time, there's some studio owners that I know up in the cities that have immaculate spaces. So I'm again, really focusing locally here, but the beauty about having a space as an entrepreneur and then also just being a producer and myself is that it's probably a pretty even split. Some people come here not to work with Zach, but just because we have a professional studio.
Right.
And they haven't maybe worked with me or heard a lot of my portfolio. And there's plenty of people that come that have maybe heard a project I've worked on and they like the vibe that had, right? For whatever the reason is, the sounds or the arrangement or the instrumentation. And so then they couldn't really care less what the space is about. They more just want to work with the person. And I love the dichotomy of that too, because the ones that may have heard my stuff, it's really fun to be able to have that like rapport with them, kind of help them take their song from good to great, as cheesy as that sounds. But then it's also fun to meet brand new faces and create a relationship with those people. Yeah,
well that's transitions really well into, you mentioned focusing local on Rochester. And this is a large question, so you can take as little or as small as you want. But what would you see, we'll talk music for a moment, and then of course, as Great Duck Theater, we'll transition to maybe talking about film. But in the music scene, what are some things that Rochester really does positively, some great things, maybe some places where improvement is a strong word, but some things that could be new and upcoming in Rochester in the music scene that you'd want to see?
Yeah.
It's a large question, I know, but
no, it's
take it and run.
Actually, I think it's very answerable because it's a conversation that me and my interns have in this exact room almost weekly, that whenever we're at a show with other musicians around the area, we're almost always just chatting about these exact things. What's going well and what can we do to improve it, basically. So what's going well is that more so than really any other community I've been present in, there is a grassroots community of music lovers and musicians and people involved in the creative arts industry as a whole that are really working their butts off to be able to get this industry to a reputable spot in the greater Rochester area. And there's people sacrificing a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to see that grow, basically. And it's kind of, this is maybe a dramatic example, but I kind of see a lot of the people that are doing that right now as sort of forerunners, maybe the first ones that charge into battle, and their names may never be remembered, but they play such an important role in the victory of that battle or war or whatever. But again, dramatic example.
Very cinematic.
Yes,
on brand.
Yeah. Band of Brothers.
There we go. Yeah. Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of people who are kind of sacrificing that. They may not see a reward, but they're really, really working their tails off to see this scene grow, which I'm so thankful for them. And we're thankful to be part of that sort of influencing group to tell Rochester we have an amazing group of talented individuals here. So that kind of transitions into how to improve it. We talk constantly about how we just need a bit more support from the city and the city leadership, I'd say. There seem to be plenty of roadblocks that come up whenever new venues try to open or new sort of creative arts industries open. And there's not even any specific names I have in mind or anything like that of people. But one thing we're really missing is a legitimate mid-sized music venue where there's an installed sound system and we can bring nice, like, high-level indie artists through the area. We're not looking to house Justin Bieber in Rochester, and we've got plenty of little coffee shops where the gigging musician can play, which is awesome. But us being located in between Chicago and Minneapolis, and us being Minnesota's third biggest city behind the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. So basically the second largest, we really would love this to be more of a hub for artists to say, I can't wait to go to Rochester to play a show. And the sort of ragtag venues that we've been able to create out of random warehouses and bringing in a sound system to bring in a somewhat large artist, or using the Rochester Art Center, which isn't a music venue, but a location in which we've done that. Pure Rock Studios, a Lesson Studios, has a really nice performance space now that festivals are happening in. And the artists that come and play at those are starting to say, wow, we really love the crowds in Rochester. We really love the vibe. And I think the people who are attending the shows in Rochester are not taking those for granted, because it's kind of few and far in between when we have a really, really cool level artist here. So I think we're a very thankful music community when larger artists come through the area, and we'd love to have a venue, though, that could be a home for those people moving forward. In our live room upstairs in the Studio A, we will have an event space. We have already a stage that's existent. We'll build it out. We will be a studio first and studio primarily, but we're excited to be able to have maybe sort of mid-level artists have a place to play shows at and have some events here. And then also we're really excited to give our artists that are recording here a spot in the same spot that they recorded a record to do an album release show or something like that. So we're excited.
Awesome. Yeah. So would you, real quick, do you have any plugs? Obviously, Carpet Booth Studios, you can follow at Twitter and Instagram, correct?
Yep, at Carpet Booth.
There you go.
Yeah, on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook.com/Carpet Booth. And then carpetbooth.com. So it's basically all Carpet Booth.
Right. So you'll get to see obviously what you guys are up to, but you're also very connected in the musical scene in Rochester. So I see every once in a while tweeting about shows or that sort of thing. So
yeah, which is funny because I look at a bunch of the other my buddies that own studios, and nobody really does that. But those studios exist more in saturated metro areas where there's a bunch of studios and there's a thriving arts community. I love to promote other entrepreneurs that have arts and culture things, and then just music as a whole in the area. If we don't sort of partner together, I don't think the music scene and arts and culture scene will grow as rapidly as we want it to, which is a cool partnership that we have here. Exactly. Even though we're not music, you're not music and I'm not film, it's still within the arts umbrella, so we can help each other.
Exactly. So let's transition to that.
Perfect.
Film. Let's first talk about Zach Zurn, which is your real name.
Yes.
As a film fan, what do you can answer this however you want. There's no judgment here. But what do you consider yourself as a film fan? Are you into horror? Do you like the indie? Are you a huge Marvel fan?
Yeah.
All of the above.
Okay.
When you think film, what? There's a big question again. I love these big questions.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, again, similar to how we were talking about with music, I am an indie film lover. So I'm not the one that's going to fly across the country to go to a Sundance or another film festival. even though I do drive over to Winona and go to the Frozen River Film Festival as much as possible because they have an awesome thing going there. I went to school in Winona too, so it's nostalgic.
It's a good plug. As people can go to film festivals as possible.
Yeah, Frozen River.
Winona's not far.
Awesome.
You don't have to go to Sundance.
No, there's amazing festivals all over Winona. But I do love, and I always forget the name, A24? Is that
A24.
A24, I always get that.
Minus
27 is my favorite number, so I always throw that in there. A24, basically anything they do, I almost always love.
Yeah. For those out there, they recently did Lady Bird, Moonlight, Best Picture a couple years ago is A24. Recently they had Hereditary, a lot of really good horror. Sorry, go ahead.
Ex Machina, was that?
Ex Machina, a couple years ago.
Machina,
they did incredible stuff. I think they've put out somewhere in the realm of 30 to 40 films, and all of them are worth seeing. Their first film was Spring Breakers with James Franco. It came out in 2013. But like that's crazy for that to be a first film, because that's a really interesting film if you haven't seen it. It's famous because Selena Gomez, that was her first sort of like edgy role.
Wow.
But it is a good movie. But A24 is a fantastic studio.
Yes.
Indie studio.
So I and it's kind of interesting because I think they exist in between the indie and mainstream role. Like most all of their movies hit major theaters in major cities, which is really cool. So they're still really accessible. There's a lot of indie films I've seen, really hard to find a showing, which is really cool.
Not anymore. But I'm glad you mentioned A24 because that is sort of our lane as Grey Duck Theater. We focus on indie film. We love to get pictures out there that people aren't watching, or at least can't find if they want to watch it. We want to give a venue to that, a real voice to an artistic side of film. But we also don't hate fun. You know what I mean? Like, we're not sitting in our cafe talking about French existential filmmakers all the time. I'll do that with you. If you're out there and you want to do that, hit me up. But also, we just love film in general.
Yeah.
And that's what A24 is. They put out fun, they put out horror, they put out really thoughtful, wacky films.
Yeah, emotional films,
all over the spectrum. So I'm glad you mentioned them. That's a good plug.
That's perfect.
And Grey Duck Theater's hoping to provide a venue for that sort of thing.
Awesome. So outside of them, we had briefly mentioned Tarantino earlier as well. Love his stuff. One of my top favorite films of all time is both of the Kill Bills.
Fascinating.
I love that franchise for some reason. It's quirky and weird and dark. And I don't know, even my humor that I like in comedy is pretty dark and pretty dry. So any of that sort of stuff that like makes you kind of grimace but like laugh at the same time, but you're not sure if you should be laughing sort of stuff, almost always gets me going.
So Tarantino is really your guy. I mean, that's a great...
Yes, and I love how, even though I'm not into like gory movies, like all of the blood scenes in there, but they're so bright red that it's sort of like fake looking, and I like how like fantasy it almost is.
Yeah, I remember Django, so it's another Tarantino film. There's a very famous scene at the end, which is a lot of gore, just a lot of shooting, a lot of explosions. I watched it with, I'm trying to remember, it was one of my friends who she didn't like violence. She wasn't really sure about this movie we were all watching. Not like she objected morally, but she just didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
And I remember being really nervous during this scene because I'd seen the movie and I knew that scene is really, if you've seen the film, you know the scene I'm talking about at the end, where just...
everything goes to hell, basically.
Exactly, yeah. But she saw that movie and I remember her reaction was so intriguing. She said, the blood was not... violent, I think was the phrase she used. I thought it was such an interesting use, a way to say that for Tarantino. But it's true. Sometimes you can use blood and not be... I guess it's still violent, but the way she said it really got across the idea that Tarantino uses blood in an artistic way.
That's so true.
It's not just sort of to throw it in your face, or even in like a Saving Private Ryan way of like showing you the horrors of war. He uses it in an artistic way that is, I think, so beautiful. It's one of those beautiful things you can talk about when you talk about film, different ways to use gore, and Tarantino does it so interestingly.
Absolutely. So outside of Kill Bill, a few of my other favorite films that I will like die on the hill for are Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Great pick.
Okay, and I'm just a Carrey fan as a whole. What a different role for him. So cool. One that's a little surprising for me to even admit, but one of my favorite films is Adaptation. I mean, Meryl Streep will steal my heart all the time. But Nicolas Cage is one of the main actors in there, which is, he gets all the shtick in the world, but I think he actually does a great job in that film. Not quite the Wicker Man performance level, so he did a good job in that. And then I'd say Royal Tenenbaums. Love that.
You're hitting all the great indie
Perfect. Yeah.
hits here.
I know. I'm going to be a
You got
great
Wes Anderson, Tarantino. Yes. You just need a Paul Thomas Anderson, and you're like the guy.
Yeah, and then I would say maybe I love Pixar as well, like animation stuff, but Fantastic Mr. Fox is probably one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite animated film as a whole. It's so
favorite
quirky.
Wes Anderson film as well.
Yeah, I'd go that far.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I love that film.
That's a great movie. I mean, what the cuss? More people need to see it, right?
Absolutely.
If you haven't seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, absolutely see it.
Very good.
It's great. Did you see Isle of Dogs recently? Wes Anderson's
I have not,
new animated?
but I need to.
Okay.
We missed it in theaters, which I'm really bummed about. But my brother-in-law, who's a huge Anderson fan, and we're both kind of the aesthetic Fantastic Mr. Fox fans, he said he saw it, and he loved it. So.
It's a lot of fun.
Really?
A lot of fun. I would still put Fantastic Mr. Fox above, but you're dealing with two great movies there.
Yes, I'm so excited.
So, it's a good movie. I would see it.
Great.
Maybe we'll have it a great duck sometime. It's sort of throwback. I mean, you gotta have lots of Wes Anderson, right?
Yes. That's great.
Excellent. So here in Rochester, what is you're being a huge indie film fan?
Yeah.
Have you felt? I don't want to be negative on you, but do you feel that you were served in that way? Is it hard to find showings? How do you, as an indie film fan, how do you feel like being in Rochester? You have access to those sort of films.
We don't.
Okay.
My wife and I we talk often about wanting to see all of these type of films that we've talked about, and so we'll check Google for showtimes. It says not playing in your area, not playing in your area.
Right.
There's I think
the dreaded Fandango.com.
Yes.
Showtimes within 20 miles.
Yes, absolutely. And so there have been a couple times, I can't remember which film specifically, but we have driven up to the Minneapolis, St. Paul area specifically to see a movie that we knew we wanted to see in theaters because it wasn't showing here. But other than that, if it's not showing or we really want to see it, we just wait until it's available for streaming or to get it as a rental. Which is a bummer because there is everybody, if you're an American for the most part, you can agree on the fact that going to the movie theater is one of the best experiences. It's nostalgic, it is emotional, it's such a cool thing to do with family and friends and romantic relationships. Like everybody had such fond memories of the movie theater as a whole.